slavery from 100 years ago. Amazon is profiting off of it right now. While you argue about reparations, Amazon is putting Black-owned small businesses out of business and reducing the wages of all blue-collar workers, regardless of their race. And don't just take our word for it. Listen for yourself to the stories of actual Amazon workers. So this video here has about, I think, 5 different stories from Amazon workers. This guy, he worked at Amazon and he calls it modern day slavery. And I think he said he could only do a couple weeks there. And then Amazon's anti-union training video is terrifying. This video shows their anti-union training video that they use to try to indoctrinate Whole Foods employees that, like, oh, you shouldn't unionize and you shouldn't talk about, you know, getting things like a living wage. So that's Amazon, guys. You know, it's very sad. I will say that. That article is up on the Patriot Soapbox website. You know, I would appreciate it if you guys could share that article and try to get the word out. What Amazon is doing is, you know, really it's unacceptable. And it's very sad. You know, for people who work at Amazon, I really feel bad for them. I can't imagine being monitored with surveillance cameras and AI and every single moment or movement being logged. And if you take a break to do something, they're logging that and saying, oh, deduct time for that, deduct time for that. I mean, come on. This is like, it's cruel. It's cruel and unusual punishment, making people shit in bags and pee in bottles. That is cruel and unusual. And it's really pathetic, you know? All right, so we're now passing it over to Breaking Spectre. How are you?
What's going on? How are we doing this evening?
I'm doing all right. And just a little disgusted after having to write about Amazon today.
Well, you know, Bezos has got to keep the lights on too. It's all about the little people.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he really, he just loves Americans and he really cares about the poor people. You know, he's a philanthropist.
Well, he loves the little people, just himself.
Yeah. Well, the question is, though, at the end of the day, what sort of solutions can we build outside of these folks before they totally take over everything, right?
Yeah.
How do we localize and, you know, capitalize, if you will, on the logistics systems and that they've built, except on a local scale?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would say is for people to try to organize locally. If you find out an Amazon is going to try to put a warehouse in your area, try to get a group of people together to negotiate a real wage, I guess. I mean, or to try to just prevent them from opening that warehouse. Because look what happened when they took over the GM warehouses. Those people were making $100,000 a year as a warehouse employee, and they got union benefits. And Amazon reduced their salary by 60% to less than $40,000 a year. So, and then no benefits, of course. So
does that mean that AOC actually did her community a benefit by not allowing the Amazon warehouse to be built there?
Yeah, actually, she might have. And that's the thing. You have to be careful when you're looking at conservatives saying, well, Amazon brings jobs. No, but at what cost? Why would you want a job where you're going to make 60% less than the job that you have now?
Well, and I don't think it ends until the linchpin is pulled, and that's the Federal Reserve and the fiat currency system pulled down, because the longer we keep up this charade with our dollar systems and all these fiat currencies worldwide, the cheaper capital becomes. I mean, just look at what's playing out here today with all the chipsets and that, where manufacturing has basically stopped because they're waiting on chips. And of course, that leads into the robotics and everything that's going to basically take over the human element of what should be human jobs. And it just makes it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper until, hey, guess what? You get paid to sit at home and collect your benefits.
Oh yeah, I mean that's really where they're going, and yeah, I mean I don't see any other issue. I mean any other way to really fight this. It's usury, and what the Fed is doing is not sustainable. It's like a giant Ponzi scheme. It constantly requires infinite growth, infinite expansion, just infinite printing of money. So all of that debt can never be paid back. We are trillions of dollars in debt for what? Why are we borrowing money from some private bank? That's stupid. Nobody benefits from this except a very small group of people. Yeah, so we have to get rid of that. That actually, I think, is our biggest problem is the Federal Reserve. That is the one thing everybody should be focusing on and trying to get rid of, or at least educate people on. But, they've got everybody arguing over identity politics.
Keep them fighting amongst ourselves and not looking behind the curtain as to who's pulling the strings.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
It's depressing. That's for sure. I think I'm going to write about tomorrow or the next day something like positive for once. The past couple articles have been very depressing.
Well, definitely. You got Good Friday tomorrow, so try to do something positive.
Yeah. I will. Yep. All right, you guys have a good one. Good night.
Alrighty, take care.
See you, Brigham.
Yep, take care. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How we doing? Spectre here. Been a while since I've been on the old soapbox. I think it's been probably, maybe about November 2019, I think, last. So it's been a day or two. And tonight I'm going to do a little something different here. I'm going to bring the show that I've been doing here behind the scenes on my own channel. I'm going to do a little bit of a hodgepodge, if you will, kind of bring people up to speed as to what old Spectre's been up to here as of late. Some of the things that I've been working on behind the scenes, various projects, various channels, you name it. And yeah, that's what we'll do here this evening. So stick around. Let me get the old opener rolling here, and I'll see you back here momentarily. Hopefully, if I don't blow things up. Oh, what are we doing here? Things getting all wonky. There we go. Let's try this. All right, welcome back, everybody. How we doing? It's good to be aboard the old soapbox and all the various platforms you guys are on. I'm sitting here staring at a bunch of folks over on the D-Live side. I know we're over on Vaughn. We're over on Trovo. We are over on the Foxhole app. We're over on Tiger Network. And I think Roku, and are there any that I missed? It's been a while. Tough keeping track of where we're all at here as of late and having to hopscotch around. Many of us having to do the same thing as well. And of course, anybody that's followed my work knows that I've been over on the Tiger Network, the D-Lives, the Twitches, and pretty well following right along behind most of the channels here. So that's what we're going to cover here this evening. So I'm going to lead things off tonight just to kind of bring you a little bit up to speed as to what old Spectre has been up to as of late. And let's see here, get things squared away. There we go. Let's try that one more time. There we go. Finally. All right. So, well, Spectre got an article published here today over on southfront.org, and this dates back to a show and that I had done here probably a little over a month ago. It took them a little while to get all the graphics and whatnot pulled together, and actually got another one that got out ahead of it. But nonetheless, this was focusing on Texas at the time and the power and weather woes and that took place. So I'm going to let this spin through. Just got published here today, so I'm going to let this play through, see what you think. As Texans regain electricity and water after a week of extremely cold weather, much is being revealed with the ongoing Texas saga after ERCOT and energy providers were caught with their collective pants down. Federal government ineptitude and day one Biden EOs have been called into question. Similarly, Texans are asking questions about the bureaucracy known as the Electric Reliability Council of Texas after having found that many members were not Texas residents. Never letting a crisis go to waste, the face of the Green New Deal, Alexandria Occasional Cortex, jump-jetted down to Houston with their fellow Dems for some photo ops, albeit this time not in front of a chain-link fence in the middle of nowhere. But it's not political, right, AOC? Readers may want to brush up on the AOC-Ted Cruz feud over the last several months. Not to be outdone, climate charlatan, czar, charlatan, same thing, John Kerry tries to gaslight us into believing that somehow Texas cold snap and energy woes was caused by, wait for it, global warming. Nonetheless, private individuals and groups are getting the job done, delivering meals and water in Texas' time of need. A call out for skilled trades is in dire need given the abundance of pipes that have burst as a result of the energy disruption. Over the coming weeks, a number of questions should be answered. Perhaps more of a rhetorical question is whether or not this was a shot across the bow from the deep state to get Texas back in line. Texas led the state suit on election fraud to SCOTUS. AG Paxton has already taken Biden to court, contesting EOs related to immigration. AG Paxton has also been vocal about attempts by the feds to thwart the Second Amendment. And there's the whole Texit secession movement. Also, what are Texans to do with exorbitant energy bills now hitting their doorsteps for energy they didn't consume? It should be painfully obvious of the shortcomings of renewable energy sources like wind and solar, especially in Arctic temperatures coupled with snow and ice. And we've not even scratched the surface on where all of this electricity will come from to power EVs as the war on fossil fuels heats up. More to come, certainly. So there you go, folks. It's been a long time coming, been a little bit of a project in works net here. Took a little bit for them to finally get it all squared away with all the things going on. If you ever follow southfront.org, you know that they do quite a bit of reporting on the Middle East and do tend to dabble in some other affairs as well, pertaining to Biden, politics here, periodically, you name it. But nonetheless, there you have it, though. Yours truly got an article published, did the little write-up, and of course, this was all based on one of the shows that I did. I think it was my 14th of February show and that I did, and all the various articles covered and kind of a short little write-up of it, and they pulled it all together, and I thought they did a pretty fantastic job. That being said, there was a follow-up show and that I did. I did a couple, 2, 3 in regards to Texas, and this one actually snuck out a little bit ahead. Says Texas, what did Goldman Sachs know, and when did they know it? It says, dear friends, in February, a bitter snowstorm separated more than 4 million Texans from state's power grid. The winter storm has neutralized Texas' power supply, freezing natural gas pipelines and causing wind farms to grind to a halt, leaving people without access to heat and electricity. As a result, the freeze claimed lives of dozens of citizens. As Texas is defrosting, the questions raised while the local energy suppliers file for bankruptcy, leading U.S. banks count profit from the disaster. We propose you an investigative stream on this issue that was submitted by our contributor. We invite you to express your opinion in the comments. And here is a short write-up in that for the broadcast for those that may have happened to catch that. It says in a follow-up to the recent devastating snowstorm in Texas, questions are raised as to what Goldman Sachs knew and when. Both Bank of America and Goldman Sachs made bank at the expense of Texans during the power outage. However, it's almost as if Goldman Sachs predictably knew in advance that the energy market would turn from a bearish stance to a bullish one. The stream takes a look at possible connections surrounding the Texas event and leaves the audience, and hopefully Texans, inquiring whether there's more here than meets the eye. So you guys can check both of those out over on old Southfront, having got those published here as of late. I'll go ahead and drop the links out there if you wish to peruse those. Let me get the other link in that drop there for you if you wish to take a gander. There we go. So just some of the pet projects that old Spectre's got going on behind the scenes. Aside from that, for those who follow all the work across all the channels, know that I've got my archive page and that up over on UGEtube. You can go over there and check out most all the episodes, types of episodes, my personal shows and that I do on my channel versus fireside chats and so forth over on the 5x5 side, periodic shows and that over there. And of course, for those that have been around for quite a while, you'll remember, get the old ads out of here. They got to fund themselves now. You'll recall that back in the day, we had the old historical docs net here on PSB, which didn't get lost, by the way, folks. You guys can check all that out here. All the old Federalist Papers from back then, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and many other documents are all there. And of course, many others as well. So I think right now I'm probably sitting just under about 300 shows net over the last couple of years, all of which you can either find here and you can also find here as of late. Oop, not there. Let's go back here over to oldtv.gab.com, my channel over there. Recently started doing that here as of the 1st of February, I guess it's been now, as Torba and everybody kind of gets the old systems net firing over there. But while I'm over here, I think what I'll do, I want to show this piece net that I recently did, and this is a little bit of a carve up in that from one of my broadcasts net that I did here on this mask montage. I think I'll let this play through here just to highlight the ridiculousness of the COVID-19 and mask stuff. If you've been with me for any period of time, you know that I've been covering the whole coronavirus, COVID-19 business and that for probably the better part of a year now as this thing has unraveled itself. And there's many themes to this, obviously, one of which talking about the vaccines, which I've already done a show kind of breaking down all the various manufacturers and the negative side of each of these, the Modernas, the Johnson & Johnsons, the you name it. Not a lot out there yet on the old Sputnik 5. Still waiting to see that play out as the Oxford AstraZeneca saga plays out in Europe and everywhere else. But I also took a look at the mask side of things. And so I'm going to let this play through. Like I said, this is about 4 months worth of articles net from the old archives, and not everything certainly that I have in the old stack of stuff that I have, but here's about 80 articles net I'm going to let play through. So take a listen, or take a watch, I should say. No audio or no commentary needed. And of course, now it decides it doesn't want to play. Come on now. think they got too many ads over here now. There we go. All right. Well, there we go. I see some of you guys saying, well, relevance is lost on a cell phone. Well, that's great, fine and dandy. Well, get your damn self on a PC or on a TV. It's not that hard. What do you think? You're limited to just one stinking device? Come on now. Or think we're a little smarter than that. Bottom line is, at the end of the day, you can use this as a tool to red pill some folks. Doesn't necessarily have to just be on a cell phone. Take your PC, take your laptop, take it to them on Roku, whatever. Yes, you can actually read it, or you can actually get over to my archives over here and actually check out the actual broadcast. I did go through quite a few of the articles on the back end, especially when it comes to the actual science, the true science, not the BS garbage net that was pushed through a lot of the stuff that you saw on the front end of that. But the negative side effects of all this, obviously the kids and the ramifications of a lot of kids wearing these, developmental issues that they're going to have, especially if you're a toddler who obviously has to use a lot of reliance, if you will, on people's expressions to understand exactly what they're saying, because there's no other way that they can communicate. We're robbing kids of even being able to do that at this point. It's just absolutely insane, the people that continue to buy into this stuff. You know, there's a reason why at the end of the day we have a port on the front of us to inhale and exhale out of, and not to rebreathe the same garbage back in. So I don't know. It's, again, a tool that you guys can use if you see fit. There's all sorts of other stuff out there as well. That being said, let me bring the old share back up here real quick and we'll carry on. A couple other things I'm working on here. If you get an opportunity, I brought this up the other day on the show, considering doing a live reading of one or probably both these books at some point, but it's a matter of which one do I want to start off with first. Ayn Rand, The Virtue of Selfishness. Good book, and that probably about 150, 200 pages or so. The reason for that, obviously, if you look at what is going on with the whole COVID business, all the Karens and that are out there at this point in time. Oh, you have to do it for the protection of others. No, you don't. No, you don't. At the end of the day, you know, your fear, as the saying goes, my liberty does not stop where your fear begins, right? And yes, there is a bit of selfishness that we have to have at this point in time. And so this particular book by Ayn Rand, The Virtue of Selfishness, we'll get into that. And I think it's going to be interesting to see the parallels of that was written, I think, now back in 1964, if my memory serves me correctly, how that parallels to the things that we are seeing going on today. And then also Alexis de Tocqueville's Democracy in America. I had done a piece here recently where I think it was over at the Western Journal that we saw Michael Flynn pen a piece talking about how all of his supposed friends and that fled him in the thick of the battle as he was going through all this stuff, getting castigated by the deep state and the Just Us system with Sidney Powell and so forth. The people that he relied upon in his time of need in that particular article all left him. And basically, it came down to a very, very small few friends and family. And one of the things that he highlighted in that article was getting back to our roots. And of course, if you followed any of my work, been here a couple of years ago when we went through this, we talked about the Constitution. We talked about the Declaration of Independence. We went through the Federalist Papers. But one of the things that he cited in that article was Alexis de Tocqueville's Democracy in America. And it's a book I've read many years ago, and it's probably well worth the read again to get us reacclimated. So I may do that one as well. So if by chance you're over on the social media side, drop me a thumbs up on that one as to which one you may wish to hear. Get the votes tallied up here and probably get going on that here shortly. All right. Well, aside from that, and along those lines here tonight, one of the things that I also came across here the other day that I thought was rather interesting was what was called tactical civics. And again, kind of maintaining that particular theme, the U.S. Constitution, civics, the grand jury, and militia are four things that this particular group highlights. I'll hit their website here momentarily. But the U.S. Constitution is the highest human law in our republic, and in that law, we the people create, define, and limit 3 branches of the federal servants to do only the 17 services we enumerate in it. Anything else that our servants do is illegal activity. And no matter what or how much we approve or benefit from it or how long they've been doing it, constitutionally, it's simply DC organized crime. And I guess I might, if I had to wordsmith it a little bit, I would say rather than illegal, I would say it's unlawful. Obviously, there's a difference between legal and lawful. Lawful is where we want to be. Legal is the system, and that has been supplanted over top of us. Civics in our American constitutional system is simply who is boss? And we answer that question in the opening of the Constitution, called the Preamble, where we stipulate we, the people, do ordain. And then in the 10th Amendment, we stipulate that we retain all powers that we did not give our servants in the Constitution. And think of all the overstepping and whatnot that we see here today. It's absolutely insane. Can it all be undone? Yes, absolutely can. However, it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of people to understand exactly where they need to be, get themselves situated before we can actually do that. And part of that has to do with the next part, and that is the grand jury. The grand jury is the people's sword and shield against corrupt government and private sector crime in the country. This institution, required by the Constitution, began in England in 997 AD. Justice Scalia explained in U.S. versus Williams, 1997, that it is not part of the court, but independent of the judge and prosecutor. Or let me repeat, not part of the court, but independent of the judge and prosecutor. It can subpoena witnesses, issue warrants for evidence, and investigate anything suspicious in the country. Grand jury is the only way to stop corrupt judges. Grand jury. I'm going to have a lot more to say about that because that particular case that they're referencing there, U.S. versus Williams in 1997, I think that's right. I found another case 92, but I'll have to reconcile the two. It's well worth a read to understand what a grand jury can actually do. And I'm not talking a petit jury of 6 or the typical 12 and the judge looks over to you and says, here's your rules, abide in them. No. We're talking common law grand jury of 25. Common law grand jury of your peerage with a body of 25 folks basically has more power than a king, folks. And if you think, honestly, that we can't get it done with a body of 25 situated in every single state around this country and have some U.S. Marshals and that start rattling some cages, you better think again. It can happen, and we need the bodies to do it. The militia began in England in 1014 AD, like grand jury, the people's law enforcement tool ordained by God to bear the sword, Romans 13. Declaration of Independence says that when the state fails to do its job, the duty reverts to the people, and we believe the county is the proper level of oversight. So think of that. At the end of the day, yes, the county sheriff is the highest official in your respective county. Is your sheriff particularly one that is of a constitutional mindset, the Constitutional Sheriffs, Peace Officers Association, CSPOA? Perhaps they may be a part of that organization. I don't know. But bottom line, if they're not, you definitely need to have a sheriff that is going to abide in the Constitution. And if not, then you need to remove them and get somebody in there that will. Because at the end of the day, that grand jury is going to rely upon that sheriff to rattle the cages when it comes down to it. And of course, if you see what is playing out across this country with all the tyranny from the federal government on down, they're making no bones about what they do. They're just doing as they see fit, like a king ought, right? Screw the little guy. But you're seeing a lot of counties come back and say, no, I don't think so. If you want to try and do your little Second Amendment roll up and confiscate guns and registrations, yeah, you might want to think again in this county. And we're seeing that in many counties. Matter of fact, dating back here a couple of years ago, here in this state of Illinois, down around Effingham, one of the first counties to actually declare themselves a Second Amendment county, was down around there, and many counties now actually started to follow suit. Why did they start doing that? Well, take a look at what all the blue cities started doing at the time by declaring themselves sanctuary cities. All right, well, two can play that game. So if you want to declare yourself a little sanctuary for illegals and not have any law at all, well, guess what? We're going to actually use the law in our respective county, and the sheriff is going to enforce it. And of course, we're going to maintain that the Second Amendment is still standing as it's written in the Constitution in this county. So there you go. And many counties and that started to follow suit. So that being said, let's take a look at the old website for this place. It's called Tactical Civics. Tired of our lives being run by corrupt politicians and those who hate America? Then take responsibility today. I am not in any way, shape, or form a part of this particular community. I just happened to stumble upon it here, but I thought that their site was rather interesting. And I do tend to agree with the tenets of the fact that, yes, once you get yourself established and can actually be considered part of the peerage for assembling grand juries, things of that nature, getting militias organized, and yes, these pieces can and should fall into place. It says, we the people are the solution. This republic of sovereign states, founded in the name of Jesus Christ and blessed for centuries, is now under communist occupation by D.C., Beijing, and many state palaces. The massive fraud in the 2020 election, combined with the criminal COVID-19 hoax, were the work of criminals in the deep state, DNC, communist county machines, and governors. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, Communist China, Google, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, MSDNC, Clown News, Fox, ABC, CBS, and the list goes on, destroying our economy and keeping Americans in concentration camps with no communication between us. If you keep doing nothing, you are the enemy's best weapon. 44 volunteers invested more than 60,000 hours to build and refine America's only plan of action, Tactical Civics, the full spectrum solution. So again, like I said, I don't know a whole lot about it. It's rather intriguing to say the least. Yes, I do know that we got some folks here with National Liberty Alliance, and there are several other organizations out there that have similar campaigns. But bottom line, sitting around and doing absolutely nothing in this time, not acceptable. So that being said, let me bounce over to a couple other things I wanted to touch upon here tonight. And of course, Radix kind of hit a little bit upon this, what's going on with old Amazon. At the end of the day, as we talked about the Federal Reserve, what is it all based on? What is the one key word that it is all based upon? Fraud. F-R-A-U-D. At the end of the day. Fraud that has been perpetuated against we, the people. You as one of the people of your respective states. And they bank on that because our silence is acquiescence to them until we get loud enough and they actually hear your voice. So I ask you this question: how long are you going to sit idly by before you make your voice known? So that being said, fraud is kind of the key concept behind what I'm going to cover here tonight. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the preserving the autonomy and function of the grand jury. Forgot I threw this in here, but it plays right into what was just described in talking about grand juries. Here's a short synopsis, and like I said, I'm probably going to do a separate show explicitly on U.S. Versus Williams and kind of breaking that case down so people actually understand what actually happened in that case and why it is especially important now. Let me get this blown up here a little bit. It says, preserving the autonomy and function of the grand jury, United States versus Williams. This was a Catholic University Law Review that I happened to find from 1993. But in that, it says the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution guarantees an individual the right to indictment by a grand jury prior to trial for all capital or other infamous crimes. The framers of the Constitution intended the grand jury to serve the dual function of bringing trial to those rightly accused and protecting the innocent from unjust prosecution. Despite the fact that the grand jury has long been a cornerstone of Anglo-American criminal jurisprudence, it has recently suffered increasingly sharp attacks on its legitimacy. Scholars suggest that the growing complexity of crime and the ascending role of the prosecutor have rendered the grand jury a victim of prosecutorial abuse and manipulation. And there's all sorts of citations net within this particular document. It says, although some critics have called for the abolition of the grand jury, and that would be a huge no-no. Others have suggested procedural reforms to curb grand jury abuse and restore fairness to the determinations of probable causes. One suggested reform calls for the prosecutor to disclose to the grand jury substantial exculpatory evidence in his possession. The legality of establishing this particular reform by judicial fiat remained unsettled until the United States Supreme Court ruled in United States versus Williams that the imposition of this prosecutorial duty by federal courts was an improper exercise of the court's supervisory power. Why is that key? Well, think back to what we just had happen here in November 2020. No court would hear any of this business about any evidence at all in regards to election fraud, which we all saw, witnessed with our very own eyes. I don't give a damn if the Mockingbird media and any think tanks or whoever from the government tries to gaslight us and say, oh, it didn't exist. Bullshit. We know better. At the end of the day, it's all documented. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of affidavits out there indicating otherwise all across this land. Personally, if you go to my Gab page, I've got linked and pinned right at the top on my page. You can find over 5,400 articles that were tracked by various outlets across the country as to what was going on, all the various hearings, all the various videos, all the various court cases and whatnot going on. And we're just not going to buy it. Sorry, not going to happen. You know it. We know it. We know you know that we know it, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is absolutely key because it's going to have to come down to a probable, in my opinion, grand jury of the people to get it done. And common law, not in these just us courts, which we know to be false at this point. You're not going to get any quarter there. It says prior to Williams, the federal courts of appeals were split regarding the duty of a prosecutor to disclose exculpatory evidence to a grand jury. The majority of federal circuits imposed no such duty. These courts reasoned that since the proper setting for determining an accused guilt or innocence is the trial requiring the prosecutor to present exculpatory evidence at the pre-trial stage, would convert the grand jury proceedings from a determination of probable cause to a preliminary trial on the merits. In addition, these courts considered the task of identifying what evidence is exculpatory to be unreasonably difficult. It says within the past 15 years, however, the United States courts of appeals for the 2nd, 7th, and 10th circuits, as well as several federal district courts and numerous state courts, have required the prosecutor to present exculpatory evidence to a grand jury. These courts asserted that a prosecutor's concealment of exculpatory evidence that is material to the grand jury's determination of probable cause undermined the grand jury's ability to be independent and informed, and to act as a check on prosecutorial power. Moreover, these courts explained that by withholding such evidence, the prosecutor disregarded the constitutional obligation to pursue fairness and ensure justice is done. Finally, the courts noted that a grand jury indicted often has ruinous personal and professional consequences for a defendant that cannot be redressed by a subsequent dismissal or acquittal at trial. And so I think I'll break from that there without getting too terribly far into this at the end of the day. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting piece to cover because, like I said, I think at the end of the day, this is an area of opportunity where many of you in your respective states can probably step up and get the job done, and we can actually get assembled bodies of 25, and we can either carry forth the indictments and that many of us know are out there and make it happen, or what have you. That being said, over to the ancient legal maxims and modern human rights. Now, as you've probably heard me say many a time before, maybe even floating through chat, link. All right, give me 1 second. I'll drop that out there for you. Check this out here. There we go. So that is, like I said, the Catholic University Law Review talking about the U.S. versus Williams case. I'll probably end up folding that into a subsequent piece later on that'll be exclusive to that. But nonetheless, back to what I was saying in regards to actual fraud, all that good stuff. At the end of the day, there is no statute of limitations on fraud in general. And of course, yes, you can probably go out there and look up all the various different types of fraud and all your various state statutes, and yes, all that good stuff. But I'm talking actual common law fraud. There is no statute. You can go after them for any period of time. And the same would be true of the election fraud at this point. So that being said, it calls into question, well, what do we know about some old maxims of law? And I tried to find a fairly decent source. I'm sure this isn't all of them. Forgive the fast scrolling here. But one of the things that I'm finding here, and we'll probably cover a little bit later on, axioms concerning the judicial office. There's lots of what are called maxims in law and things that have been understood for centuries and centuries. The link doesn't work. That's interesting. I've got it up here. Oh, you know what? I better probably chopped it off and it was character limited on the chat window. Let's see here. Bear with me. Let's see if this works. Maybe this is a little better. I think I got a little too much in there. Try that and see if that works. But the maxims in law are things that have been understood for eons and eons, centuries and centuries, and are just pretty well understood. That being said, just doing a quick search on fraud in this particular document here that I have. Got a few hits, but one of the key ones that is fraud est celar fraudum. It is fraud to conceal fraud. That's a maximum in law. And so I saw somebody earlier on the channel play, I think it was Governor Whitmer, talking about the gaslighting and everything else. Not her talking about gaslighting, but her gaslighting the populace and her speech or whatever the heck it was, address and that she was giving. And I was like, yeah, we see you for what you are. You're a fraud, you're a huckster, and bottom line, you need to go down. You're just plain evil. She, and along with the Cuomos, the Wolfs, the Murphys, the you name it, the Newsoms, all need to go down for their crimes against humanity, the third-degree murder, just like what we saw through QPO's past, for their bad, extremely bad policies pertaining to long-term care facilities, the COVID business, all of it. They know what they did. We see it for what it is, and they need to go down for it. But nonetheless, again, like I said, there's some interesting maxims in here as well, outside of just fraud. But nonetheless, you kind of get the idea here. He who is able to prevent something and does not will be deemed to have agreed to it. Abuse of anything is not an argument against its use. He who reaps the benefit should carry the burden, just to give you some ideas. Talking about insanity, the insane do not have free will. A madman is punished only by his madness, and the insane are not present, cannot be witnesses. Yeah, so think of these folks that you see floating around society today. And I would venture to say those that still have masks on. Are they not insane? Should we trust them? Do they have free will? Obviously, if you look at these people driving around in cars with masks on, you might say, no, they're cheap at the end of the day. Are they not? Procedure. When proper procedure is observed, the law is observed. It is in the public interest that litigation should not go on, and so on and so forth. So there's several there, and it kind of leads into, real quick here before I run out of time here this evening, an interesting piece that was on Shaking My Head Productions from back in February. I think they may have had to reload this, I'm not sure, but it was called America, It's Not What You Think It Is, or What You Think, Reloaded. I'm going to drop the link to this out there as well, maybe narrate a little bit of this, because the first 30 minutes of this are absolutely key. Everybody should understand what is actually going on with our system here today. And I'm talking the fraud all the way back to birth, to your birth certificate, talking about currency, bills of lading, things of that nature. And then if you square that against like what we just saw take place in the Suez Canal here with the old Evergreen container ship, all those things kind of come to mind, right? Bills of lading, what all is on that particular ship? What is your birth certificate really? What is currency? What is a bank? And the duality of a lot of the words that they use. So let me play this here for just a minute.
This is the world you are graduating into. This is what I want to talk about today with you for a few minutes.
All right, I think I'm going to try and scroll forward into the good stuff here. Skip past old Joe Biden here. Let's see, where does it get good? Yeah, let's try here. Let's see if this picks up on some of what I was talking about.
Our people. Together we will determine the course of America.
Now, a little bit further, I think. Hang on.
In account. Hall concurs. Masonry is a university teaching the liberal arts and sciences of the soul to all who will attend to its words. It is a shadow of the great Atlantean mystery school which stood with all its splendor in the ancient city of the Golden Gates, where now the turbulent Atlantic rolls in unbroken sweep. And I bet you wonder.
All right, I'm going to fast forward a little bit again because I think I finally found the key section in that I was looking for while that was playing. Let me get that going right here, I think. Come on.
Since primordial antiquity were written to regulate land and sea separately. Laws pertaining to land became the law of the land, or rather natural or common law, and laws pertaining to the sea became law of the sea, or rather maritime admiralty law, which is...
And of course it's got a buffer, but let's see here, see if I can skip forward maybe a little bit, I don't know. Experiencing interruptions? Find out why. Well, thank you, YouTube, for the suggestion. All right. Looks like it's going to be uncooperative, but nonetheless, I'm going to drop the link out there. Again, I want you guys to take a peek at the about first 30 minutes or so of that. Well worth the watch to help you understand the, like I said, basically the duality of the words in that they use. It's pure manipulation. And I think it was... maybe Shaking My Head Productions or somebody else here, maybe about a year or so ago, had a video also that was very good, I thought. And it actually was talking about what is known as dysplasia, a word you probably haven't used in your vernacular, if ever. But what it entailed is it took a clip out of... I think the movie Madagascar, if I'm not mistaken, the one that had the penguins and the monkeys, and there's a particular scene within that movie. I believe the monkeys are sitting there caged up, and they're sitting there trying to read a sign on the opposing side with the penguins there. The penguins that are flapping their wing at the sign says, "Hey, I can't read this," and it's everything written in all capital letters. And to you and I, it would look like, yeah, we should be able to read that, no problem. But basically, he nudges his other monkey friend off to the side, and he starts reading in sign language, and then he translates back to the penguins what he was actually saying. So he's not actually reading it in a sense that you and I would consider reading everything in all capital letters. It's actually sign language, and it's absolutely true. In that particular video, he goes and finds in the Chicago Style Manual, page 66, consequently, where it says in so many words that everything in all capital letters is indeed a foreign language. Sign language is a foreign language to us. So everything that you see on court documents in all capital letters, everything that you get in the mail, all capital letters, is a foreign language. So that being said, that's going to be some of the focus I think I'm going to probably do in perhaps some subsequent shows. But there you go. In a nutshell here tonight, I did have one other piece real quick think I got maybe a couple minutes here to quick squeeze this one in. Forgot I had this. But an interesting article out of the Epoch Times, Zero Hedge carried this here tonight, says the 10 radical new rules that are changing America. If you're paying attention closely, you'll see how this is playing out. I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but I'll at least hit the highlights. It says money is a construct. It can be created out of thin air. Annual deficits and aggregate national debt no longer matter much. Number 2, laws are not necessarily binding anymore. And of course, we see that with what is going on with immigration. We'll just scuttlebutt this, do whatever we want, null and void it, whatever. Racialism is now acceptable. Well, there you go. Number 4, the immigrant is mostly preferable to the citizen. That's right. So if you come across the border, you can expect that you're probably going to get stipend and housing and things of that nature. And oh, by the way, if you've lived here all your life, well, screw you. You're not getting squat. And here's about $600 thanks to Nancy Antoinette. Number 5, most Americans should be treated as we would treat little children. What do they mean? They says they cannot be asked to provide an ID to vote. Noble lies by our elites about COVID-19 rules are necessary to protect Neanderthals from themselves. Americans deserve relief from the stresses of grades, standardized testing, and normative rules of school behavior. They still are clueless about why it is good for them to pay far more for their gasoline, heating, and air conditioning. Hypocrisy is passe. Number 6. Number 7, ignoring or perpetuating homelessness is preferable to ending it. 8, McCarthyism is good. Number 9, ignorance is preferable to knowledge. Oh, there's your 1984 speak for the evening. And number 10, wokeness is the new religion, growing faster and larger than Christianity. So an interesting read out of Zero Hedge. Again, this was picked up by Victor Davis Hanson over at Epoch Times here tonight. But this is the state of our country if we continue to let it go downhill the way it is. So I'll drop the link out there for you guys. Take a peek if you wish. And it looks like I see MAGA Swagga in the house here this evening. How we doing?
How's it going?
How goes it?
Good.
Where is
just chilling.
Where's your compadre?
She is probably on her way. Let's see what happens. Otherwise, I'm driving this ship on my own. That'll be fun.
Where's old Sleepwalker?
Have no idea. No idea. Actually, let me look at my Twitter. Maybe she's trying to get a hold of me. What's up? So how's it going tonight?
Oh, not too bad. Trying to dust the old rustiness off from last time I've been on. It's been a while, so trying to get reacclimated here, I suppose.
Good for you. Oh, there she is. There she is. What's up, Salty?
I'm still getting my mom into bed. Will you play the show opener? I'll be right back.
I will. Well, anyways.
2 minutes.
All right.
Yeah.
No
hey guys.
Care, guys.
Hey. Thanks.
All right, well, breaking. Hopefully you have a good rest of the night. Great show, and hope to hear
have
from
a
you.
good show. We'll see you back next week. Take care.
All right, take it easy. All right, folks, what's up? What's up, chat? How's it going? How many of you have been trolled today with all kinds of April Fools? Like, I fell for like a couple of them, unfortunately. All right, here we go. Oh boy. Come on. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Whoa, whoa. Oh, gross, gross. Oops, my bad. Oh, gross. What's Fauci doing? All right.
What in the world?
Oh, I tried. That was a famous, that little meme got famous about 10 years ago. But they decided to put like, certain libtards on the front of that meme. Anyways,
hard.
welcome to the MAGA Mullet Show. Look, this kid is going places. He's moving up in the world. He's starting his mullet off really young, and that's a good thing, right? We're training a new generation of muleteers. So
I really dig that.
welcome to the show.
Did any of the ones that I sent you make it? I didn't get to.
No. I'm not sure. They'll make it to the next one.
Okay. I just have to show a couple of them right off the bat. I know
go
it's
for it.
Gonna. Hey, you know what? Party in the
Do
front
it.
because I need it. Ooh, you almost had it.
Oh,
I don't have my. There you go. Get it?
come on. She's gonna have it at the end. We'll see what happens. I think